Let's get started. Start with listening, and then learn new words and practice them in sentences.
Have you ever struggled with writing a formal email in English? It can be a daunting task, especially when you're unsure about the structure. But don't worry, we're here to guide you through it. A formal email typically consists of 4 main parts: the subject line, the salutation, the body, and the closing. Each part plays a crucial role in conveying your message effectively and professionally. Let's break it down. First up, the subject line. This is the first thing the recipient sees, so it needs to be clear and concise. It should give a snapshot of what your email is about. For instance, if you're applying for a job, your subject line might be Job Application, John Doe. If you're making an inquiry, it could be Inquiry about product availability. The key is to keep it simple and straight to the point. Next, we have the salutation. This is your greeting. It's important to address the recipient appropriately. If you know their name, use it. For example, Dear Mr. Smith or Dear Dr. Johnson. If you don't know their name, Dear Sir, Madam, or To whom it may concern are acceptable alternatives. Remember, it's better to err on the side of formality in a professional context. Now, let's move on to the body of the email. This is where you communicate your main message. Keep your sentences short and your paragraphs brief. Make sure your ideas flow logically and your points are easy to understand. Start with a polite introduction, state your purpose for writing, provide any necessary details, and conclude with a call to action or a polite request. Finally, we have the closing. This is where you sign off. A simple kind regards or sincerely followed by your name is usually sufficient. If you're expecting a response, you might add, I look forward to hearing from you. And there you have it. That's the basic structure of a formal email. Remember, a well-structured email is easier to read and respond to. So take your time, plan your content, and make sure each part of your email serves its purpose. Now that we know about the structure of a formal email, what about the language we use? A crucial part of writing an effective formal email is to use polite and professional language. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it. Let's start with making requests. Instead of bluntly stating what you want, try using phrases like, I would like to request, or could you kindly? These phrases are polite, yet assertive, setting a respectful tone for your email. When giving information, it's important to be clear and concise. You could use phrases like, I am writing to inform you, or please be advised that. These expressions are not only formal, but also provide clarity, making it easier for the recipient to understand your message. Asking questions is another common part of formal emails. To keep your language professional, use phrases like, could you please clarify? Or, I would appreciate if you could provide more information about. These phrases are not only polite, but also show that you value the recipient's input and expertise. In addition, when addressing the recipient, always use their correct title and last name, such as Dear Mr. Smith or Dear Dr. Johnson, unless you've been invited to use their first name. This shows respect and acknowledges their professional status. Another essential aspect of professional language is to avoid using slang, abbreviations, or overly casual expressions. Remember, a formal email is not the place for hey, what's up, or TTYL. Instead, stick to standard English and keep your language clear and straightforward. And finally, always end your email on a positive note. Phrases like, I look forward to hearing from you, or thank you for your consideration, leave the recipient with a positive impression and encourage a response. Using polite and professional language not only shows respect to the recipient, but also reflects positively on you. By mastering these phrases and expressions, you'll be well on your way to writing clear, polite, and well-structured formal emails. So we've learned about the structure and language of a formal email. How about we put that knowledge into practice? Imagine you're applying for a job or making a professional inquiry. The first step is to craft a captivating subject line. A well-written subject line gives the recipient a snapshot of what's to come. It's your first impression, so make it count. Start with words like job application, your name, or product inquiry, product name. Simple, clear, and to the point. Now, on to the salutation. Remember, we're keeping it formal. Dear Mr. Smith or Dear Dr. Johnson are perfect ways to start. If you're unsure of the person's gender or title, Dear Sir, Madam, or To whom it may concern will do just fine. It's all about showing respect right from the get-go. Next up, the body of your email. Start by stating your purpose. If you're applying for a job, mention the position and where you saw the advertisement. For an inquiry, state what information you're seeking. Then, elaborate on your purpose. talk about your skills and qualifications for a job application, or provide more context for your inquiry. Now, let's sprinkle in that polite and professional language we learned earlier. Phrases like, I would like to, or could you kindly, and are your best friends. They show that you're respectful and considerate. Don't forget to attach any necessary documents. A simple, please find attached my resume, or I have attached the necessary documents will do. Finally, we arrive at the closing. A good closing appreciates the reader's time and anticipates their response. Thank you for considering my application, or I look forward to hearing from you, are great ways to wrap up your email. Sign off with a formal, yours sincerely if you know the recipient's name, or yours faithfully if you don't. Follow this with your full name and any necessary contact information. And there you have it, a perfectly drafted formal email. We've covered a lot of information, so let's take a moment to summarize what we've learned. Firstly, we delved into the structure of a formal email. We discovered that it comprises 4 main parts: the subject line, salutation, body, and closing. The subject line should be clear and concise, giving the recipient an immediate understanding of the email's content. The salutation is where we address the recipient, such as, Dear Mr. Smith. The body of the email is where you write your message. Remember to keep your points clear and concise, using paragraphs to separate different ideas or points. Finally, the closing, which is a polite way to end the email, such as, I look forward to hearing from you. Next, we explored the use of polite and professional language in a formal email. It's essential to maintain a respectful tone throughout the email. We practiced phrases such as, I would like to request, which is a polite way to make a request, and please find attached, a common phrase used when attaching files or documents to the email. Finally, we walked through the process of drafting a formal email. This is where we put our knowledge of structure and polite language into practice. We learned that it's important to plan out the email before we start writing, ensuring we cover all necessary points and maintain a logical flow. Remember, practice makes perfect. The more you practice writing formal emails, the more comfortable you will become with the structure and language. You'll start to see improvements in your professional communication skills and find it easier to express your thoughts and ideas in English. So, let's keep practicing. Draft a few emails, play around with the language and structure, and don't be afraid to ask for feedback. It's all part of the learning process. With these skills, you can confidently write a formal email in English. Keep practicing and happy emailing.
Let's learn new words and practice English with the topic, how to write a formal email in English at level B1. Salutation. Salutation, a greeting used at the beginning of a letter or email. Example, start your email with a formal salutation like, Dear Mr. Smith. Subject line. Subject line, the title or main topic of your email, written in the subject field. Example, make sure your subject line is clear and specific, such as, meeting request for Monday. Body. Body, the main part of the email where you write your message. Example, in the body of the email, explain the purpose of your message in a clear and polite manner. Closing. Closing, the ending part of your email where you sign off. Example, use a polite closing like best regards or sincerely before your name. Attachment. Attachment, a file or document that you send along with your email. Example, please find the report attached to this email.